The Dallas Cowboys are 11-point favorites at home against the Colts in Week 13. Will they take care of business on Sunday Night Football? All that and more in this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Cowboys. Locked On Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for tuning in. We want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. I am Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. He is Landon McCool. Check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. Landon, Week 13 is here. Sunday Night Football. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. Of course, whenever the Cowboys are double-digit favorites, I always get nervous because it's like, oh boy, like, geez,
It's happening
Louise.
a lot.
Yeah. I'm doing well. I'm actually pretty confident about the game. I'm excited to talk about it, and it's we're entering a spot of games where the Cowboys should be winning several of these. If not all of them.
Should.
And should is obviously the operative word, but I do think that there is excitement, and I think that there should be excitement about these next few weeks. Hopefully the Cowboys are able to take care of business and stack some wins.
All right, let's start on the side of the ball that I'm the most nervous about. It's the Cowboys offense against the Colts defense. Now, the Colts defense has been a little bit up and down. They did not look great against Pittsburgh last week, but they did play well against the Eagles. They played well against the Raiders. They played well against the Chiefs early in this year. How do you think the Cowboys offense matches up against Gus Bradley's unit?
Well, I think that, that there's going to be the strength of this defense for the Colts is, in the defensive interior. They still have Buckner, who's now returned. I think this will be his first week back from
second
from
week.
his
He played against the
week
Steelers
back?
last week.
Oh, that's right. He did play against the Steelers. Yeah. And then, they have another guy named Grover Stewart, who's, really, really strong interior player. And I think that that's kind of where we start with this defense, right? Is that they're going to, try to make things difficult for the Cowboys to run the football. They're going to try to control the middle of the field. They've got a lot of kind of names that you may know outside of that are guys that are still, considered premier players, but maybe aren't playing up to the level that their namesake, has would purport that they would, right? Like Yannick Ngakoue, he's having a decent year. He's given up a little bit up and down, especially considering he's Yannick Ngakoue. And then Stephen Gilmore, obviously at different points has been a defensive player of the year candidate. And, just obviously a name that we all know. And he's still a good player, but I don't know that he's quite the level of player that they usually warrants. So I think that they have players that, and I think if you watch them throughout the year, it kind of shows this. There are times when they play really good football. There was times when when they're making plays and those guys are playing up to their ability and they're a formidable defense. But there are definitely long stretches of times when they can't stop anybody. They can't seem to fit all their pieces together. They lost Shaq on the second level of the linebacker, and they have not really been able to replace anybody at that level at the linebacker position.
No, that's been their biggest problem is Zaire Franklin, who played against the Steelers. I mean, he was atrocious. And that's the reason why the Steelers were able to get so many long runs. Like Buckner and Stewart are doing their jobs, and then the linebacker goes in the wrong gap, and all of a sudden it's a 15-yard gain for Benny Snell.
And you can't – that's the problem. In this defense, in a Gus Bradley defense, you can't hide the linebackers. Like you got to have a solid linebacker play in order to kind of maintain what you need. So I think that really is – in the linebacker and the kind of safety level – is really where the Cowboys are going to be able to exploit. I think, the tight end game for the tight end passing game should be able to have some efficiency. I do think that despite the fact that they have Buckner and Stewart inside, that they will be able to run, especially on the edge. And I think that will really be problematic for that linebacker level for Indianapolis. I want to point something out real quick. I just kind of came up with this. I was looking at the games through earlier this season, and I've noticed that when the Cowboys play, okay, let me back up. I think that this would normally be a Tony Pollard game, right? Like we talk about this, right? Like, is this a Tony Pollard game or is this a Ezekiel Elliott game? I would normally label this as a Tony Pollard game, I thought, right? Like attack the outsides, get to the edge, create big plays. I went back and kind of looked at things. When the Cowboys play teams that have two or more good defensive interior linemen, it usually ends up being a Zeke game.
Yeah.
And I think that has to do with Zeke's vision inside and being able to sidestep some of those guys. So I expect the Cowboys run game to work. But I wonder if that effect that I just mentioned, having the kind of two dominant defensive interior guys, doesn't have an effect on Tony Pollard's ability to get outside, and that this doesn't end up being more of a Zeke game.
Just a couple of things on the Colts really quickly. Kenny Moore, their slot cornerback, I also believe he's their leading tackler. I don't think he's going to play this week. He has not practiced at all this week. Kwity Paye, who has missed the last 3 or 4 games, he is going to play this week. So they'll have Kwity Paye, they'll have Yannick Ngakoue, which are 2 pretty good defensive ends. It's just going to be really important that the Cowboys get a lead early in this game, because if you can get up on this Colts team and you can run at Yannick Ngakoue, who has absolutely no interest at all at defending the run, absolutely none whatsoever, you're going to be able to open up some massive holes on the ground. So that's where Cowboys get a lead. They start out quick. They can put this game away by the time we get to halftime. But if they let the Colts hang around and you get into these 3rd and 9s and Ngakoue can just dip around the edge on Tyler Smith, that's where we could be in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. There are definitely some game scripts that the Cowboys could get into that could be problematic for them. That could definitely keep this game a lot closer than it should be. And you just mentioned one of them, right? The Cowboys are kind of unable to establish a foothold early, and they're not able to score points earlier, at least keep it at a neutral or better game script, then they could potentially be in some trouble as the game starts to go on and develop. But if they're able to run the football early, if they're able to kind of gain an advantage early, points advantage early, this could be a real this could be a really ugly game for the Colts, because unlike last week, I think it's a little similar to what you saw last week with the Giants, except the difference is that Matt Ryan is not Daniel Jones.
No.
And he cannot get away and make you like long runs or make you pay. So there is every opportunity, if the Cowboys are able to kind of pin their ears back and attack the quarterback, that they're going to get a lot of sacks. They could get a lot of forced fumbles. There's going to be opportunity for that, and not as much opportunity for the Colts offense to scored out the front of a pocket and gained 20 yards on a busted 3rd down pass rush.
I'll also say this needs to be a big CeeDee Lamb game with Kenny Moore out, with Stephon Gilmore probably not traveling to the slot, probably not. You need CeeDee Lamb to just eat all against all the other cornerbacks and on all the over routes and all the yards after catch stuff. So this would be a game where I try to get CeeDee going early and often, because they're going to need him. He's their most explosive offensive player, probably not named Tony Pollard. Get him the ball early.
Honestly, if you look at where the Colts are strong on defense and where they're weak, it really does kind of match up well for the Cowboys, right? They want to attack, maybe, not the defensive tackles in the middle, but everything else, they want to attack the middle of the field. They want to put CeeDee Lamb in the slot, have him running over routes, and having Schultz, running seams or comebacks, in the middle of the field. They want to do play action and attack in the middle of that defense. So that could be bad news for Bears for the Colts if the Cowboys really get going that way, because obviously that's Cowboys offensive strength meeting a Colts defensive weakness.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about the defense, but we want to let you know that today's episode is presented by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. All you have to do is pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their Prize Pick projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. No competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. They have projections on just about any sport that you watch, and that includes the NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, PGA, college football, men's college basketball, women's college basketball, soccer, WNBA, esports, NASCAR, tennis, MMA, boxing, disc golf, Euro basketball, cricket, and more. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It is that easy. They are currently operational in over 30 states and in Canada. Download the Prize Pick app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. If you deposit $100, Prize Picks will give you $100. You deposit $50, they'll give you $50. It's really that easy. Don't forget to enter promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. All right, let's talk about the Colts offense against the Cowboys defense, and it really starts with Jonathan Taylor, right?
It does. Yeah, I think that's look. I mean, this offense is really the reason that this team is kind of where they are in the standings, and I don't mean that in a positive way at all. This offense is near the bottom of the league in major statistical categories. Despite the fact that Jonathan Taylor was the leading rusher last year, right? He was the rushing champion.
Mm-hmm.
They have not put up the same kind of numbers running the football this year. And I don't know that it's, kind of all Jonathan Taylor. I think, kind of looking at some of these games, I went back and watched, I think the last 2 or 3 games the Colts played. And it seems like they're not getting the kind of push that I would expect from a Colts offensive line. I mean, this is an offensive line that has Quentin Nelson, who, we were talking about as the next Zach Martin at points, and Braden Smith, who is a guy, obviously I'm a little more familiar with, having watched him at Auburn and really kind of develop as a tackle in a way that I didn't expect it to in the pros. Those guys, and obviously as well, a guy in Ryan Kelly, who was another very highly, ranked guy coming out.
First round pick. Yep.
Yeah, it just has not gelled for them. They ended up drafting Bernard Raymond, who the Cowboys obviously looked at as a young guy who, not a young guy, well, not a young guy coming
Old
out,
guy, yeah.
but yeah, he's young in the fact
he's
that
young
he's a
in
rookie.
Football years, right?
Yeah, and definitely young in football years. Obviously a guy that went to a smaller school, if I remember correctly. He's German,
Central
right?
Michigan.
And like has kind of a very young football life at this point. So, and he's been very up and down. And mostly down. I think it's only been recently that he started to play a little bit better football. And I think that, so I think that they're, so despite the kind of name recognition on some of this stuff, the offensive line has not been a sum of all of its parts. And so, and that goes for protecting the quarterback as well. Yep. Matt Ryan, when he's been in there, has been under siege. The same thing for the other quarterbacks that they've had throughout this year. And I think that's limited their ability to get the ball out to their playmakers on the outside. Michael Pittman is a guy who obviously is big, long, and is explosive. And Alex Pierce is a good number 2 receiver. I think that for the Cowboys, they need to control the line of scrimmage. They should be able to control the line of scrimmage in the run game and in the pass game. And then that should limit Ryan's options to get the ball out to the playmakers. And the focus needs to be on stopping Taylor, because anytime that they are going to have to get into a passing situation is going to be, this is not an unfamiliar tune for Cowboys fans this year. Anytime that their offense is going to be in a passing situation, it's a bad situation for their offense. They don't want to have to be in obvious passing downs, because Matt Ryan, like I mentioned, is not going to escape anybody. So that's really the issue, is stopping Taylor early, forcing them to throw the football.
Do you remember Matt Ryan against the Cowboys last year when he played with the Falcons?
Yeah, it was. I
got his numbers here. Ready?
Yeah.
9 for 21.
Yeah.
117 yards. 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
Yeah.
And that might be with a better offensive line.
That was with a better offensive line than this year.
Part of the reason why the Colts aren't running the ball as well is they just don't have leads. I saw an insane stat this offseason, Landon, where last year, I think they said 43% of Jonathan Taylor's runs came when the Colts were up by 7 or more.
Wow.
Which is insane, right? So when you're able to control the clock and just try to grind out teams that way, you're going to bust off some long runs. But when you're down in games, it's a lot harder to run efficiently, right? And kind of when they know it's coming. But This one is just as simple. This game really is going to boil down to, can the Cowboys get first and second down stops, right? Can they get the Colts into 3rd and 7? Because if they do, they're not losing this game. There's going to be times where Matt Ryan steps up in the pocket, throws a lollipop over to whoever the tight end is, Kyle Granson, and gets 8 yards on 3rd and 7. Like it's going to happen. They're just not going to create plays down the field. They're going to have to put together 13, 14, 15 play drives. And the Cowboys are going to be banking on, hey, if we can get them to 3rd and 9, Parsons is going to beat Bernard Ryman, or the Marcus Lawrence is going to beat Will Fryers, the right guard. Like, as long as they can do that, they're going to be just fine on defense.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, and kind of even to extrapolate that all the way out to the 10,000-foot view, it's one of those things where, do you trust this Cowboys offense against that Colts defense more than the reverse? And
that's the thing with that's what I would tell Kellen Moore and Dak in this game is, like, as long as you guys aren't giving the Colts short fields and giving them freebies, just let the defense cook, because they're going to be just fine.
Yeah, and that's why I really think that they don't need to be tricky. They're not playing, some kind of incredible, defense that they're not going to be able to move the football on. They may not have immediate success right away, and they may not score every drive, but as long as they keep possession of the football, they are able to string together plays and move the football. If they put the Colts into bad field position, this offense just really isn't going to be able to cover. They haven't been able to create big plays all year. They're not going to suddenly start now. Matt Ryan just doesn't have the arm for that. So really, this game becomes about how well are you going to tackle? How well are you going to fit in your gaps? Honestly, the word for both sides of the ball is focusing on your fundamentals. It's just fundamental football. If you just focus on the fundamentals, you're by far the more talented team. Don't play down to the competition. Don't have a bunch of stupid penalties, which, again, has been a problem for the Cowboys.
Don't let them hang around, right?
Don't let them hang around. Finish this game early, and let's, they want to go home. Let's send them home early. I understand they have a new coach. That was 4 games ago in a nasty loss last week ago. So they're ready to quit on the season too. Yannick Ngakoue may have quit already 2 weeks ago. So, let's finish this off and not give them hope or let them hang around a bunch, because that's just not going to be good for the Cowboys either.
And they've got a bye coming up after this week, which I'm sure they're looking forward to. It's been a tough season. Here's their offense in the last 6 games: 10 points, 16 points, 3 points, 25 against the gosh awful Raiders defense, 16 against the Eagles, 17 against the Steelers. Like, they're just not a good offense. So I would be extremely disappointed if the Cowboys gave up more than 20 points in this game. If they get to over 20, something really bad had to happen.
Cowboys defense has not played well, or the Cowboys offense have given them such great opportunities that they were able to take it.
But if it's just a standard, hey, the Cowboys offense has 1 turnover that doesn't lead to points, and it's just, hey, they gave up 3 long touchdown drives, that's going to be a problem. This should be a game that you can dominate by your defense, right? Like, you just know we don't have to do anything on offense that's risky at all, because we know our defense can win it on Sunday night at home against a team that's coming off a short week. That's the other thing. The Colts played on Monday Night Football, a really tough game where their defense was on the field. I think the Colts had 17 minutes of total possession in that game. It was insane. Cowboys are coming off a 10-day break at home games. Go dominate. That's really our thoughts here. Go dominate. Let's give our final predictions, Landon. But we want to let you know that this podcast is brought to you by Audible. Audible is releasing a new slate of football podcasts, and what we're sure you're going to love. Find Think Like a Champion now wherever you get your podcasts. Think Like a Champion is a brand new football podcast from Russell Wilson and Audible. Russ is a champion on the field, but off of it, we really know the grind on the path to greatness. Wilson, alongside co-host Harry Wilson and the late Trevor Morad, dig into how high-performance athletes, artists, and leaders push the boundaries of their potential. You'll hear players like Von Miller talk about his Super Bowl runs with the Broncos and the Rams. You'll hear from Tim Tebow, NCAA champion. Each episode features interviews with Olympic medalists, NFL stars, and business leaders. It's available for free on Audible or wherever you get your podcasts. Go check it out. It's a very, very good show. All right, Landon, prediction time. Who do you have winning this game and why?
I'm picking the Cowboys. I think they're 11-point favorites
On Bet Online. Yep.
On Bet Online. I'm picking them to win 24-14. I think they just 2 touchdowns is about what I think they can muster in a game, and I wouldn't even be surprised if one of them was late. I think that there's definitely a path to path here of where the Cowboys are. This game is close for 3 quarters, and we've seen a lot of these, and they pull away at the end.
Yep.
There's definitely, this is a team that has pride. This is a team that, like I said, they have a new head coach that they've just gotten in the last few weeks. There certainly is opportunity for some rah stuff to happen to kind of motivate them after a tough loss on a short week. There certainly is a chance for that. I just have a hard time believing that this team, as focused as where the Cowboys are now. Look, the Cowboys have been bad about beating up themselves. And that's really who they need to worry about in this game, right? Is getting out of their own way. But I have a hard time believing that the Cowboys, who have very clear goals in mind, have clearly a team that's on the ascend, and that is, I think coming off of their own kind of short turnaround themselves, right? After last week, and then getting a longer week, they're getting healthier. I think that this is a team that should be able to go in there and take care of business at home and pull away, heavily at the end. Maybe not quite to the point that Vegas is gambling, but I think it should be a pretty decisive win. Now, whether that decisiveness happens in the second quarter or in the middle of the fourth quarter, we'll find out. But I do think the Cowboys eventually will kind of pull away a little bit and have a comfortable win.
Yeah. I'm kind of the same with you. I'm going to pick the Cowboys to win, but I think it's going to be more stressful than we anticipate. I think it's going to follow a very similar game path to what we saw against the Giants last week, where it might be 14-13 going into the final 10 minutes of this game, and the Colts have the ball at midfield, and the Cowboys got to get a stop or whatever. And then all of a sudden, it ends up being a 24-17 type of game, and the Colts score a late field goal at the end, like something like that. But I do think the Colts, their style of play, just playing defense and running the ball, will keep this game dragging out a little longer than we would like. Just because I do think they're going to try to be so run heavy to protect Matt Ryan. But the talent, as we've been mentioning, is so drastic in this game. And the Cowboys have Super Bowl aspirations. They know they got to take care of this game at home. It's Sunday Night Football. I expect the energy level to be pretty high from Dallas in this one.
Yeah, and this is not a team that has a quarterback running option, so it's a very straightforward running attack.
It's not like Chicago or the Giants. It's more like Green Bay when Green Bay was running the ball against Dallas, but just, frankly, not as effectively as that. The difference is they can't beat you down the field like Green Bay can.
Yeah, they don't have Aaron Rodgers. Matt Ryan is going to be efficient in short doses and short yardage when he has the opportunity and the time, but he has not had very much opportunity or time throughout the season, and the Cowboys certainly are going to provide him a ton of that. So, I tend to agree. This may be a close game at different points, but there'll be a moment when when Ryan's got to drive the field, and there'll be a forced fumble recovery by the Cowboys or something like that, and the game will turn and Cowboys will pull away.
I will also say, I think this game matches up really well for Trevon Diggs, like the types of receivers that he can do really well against, like Pittman and Alex Pierce, like where there's going to be a lot of jump balls and a lot of 50-50 balls. Diggs should play well in this one.
I hope both him and Gallup are over this flu by then. That was my only other concern, because both of them caught that flu bug this week.
Mike McCarthy today at the press conference
they should be playing.
They should be fine. There's not a lot of real concern there.
Okay, good. So
it would be nice to see. How about a Malik Hooker interception against his former team? Wouldn't that be nice?
That would be nice. I would like also to suggest that it's time for Kevontae Turpin to return a touchdown. Return a punt for a touchdown. So I could see that where the Colts are kind of in a 3-and-out situation, backed up on their side of the field.
Sure.
They get a long punt, and suddenly Turpin's up the sideline for a touchdown. I would like to see that finally.
All right. That is it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. The biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. All the same places that you download the the Locked On Cowboys podcast. Go check us out on YouTube. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Cowboys. You can follow Landon at McCool BCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. Enjoy the game, and we'll be back here late Sunday, Monday to break it all down.